All the talk about the ACC potentially imploding and Florida State, Clemson, maybe even UNC and Virginia leaving the league to join the Big Ten or the SEC, the one school we have not heard mentioned a lot is Virginia Tech. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the Hokies and whether or not they may just, in fact, end up in the Big Ten or the SEC. I'm going to tell you how that could happen, my thoughts on it, and how it could impact my team, the West Virginia Mountaineers. We're going to talk about that right after this word from my sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. Belly yourself up to the bar and let me pour you out this shot of top-shelf college football content. On tap today in the episode, we are talking about conference realignment again, this time focusing on the Virginia Tech Hokies and how they might just, in fact, ride the coattails of their state counterparts, the Virginia Cavaliers, into the Big Ten or the SEC. They might just get lucky, okay? They might just get lucky. Now, let's talk about why that may happen. A lot of people don't realize or don't believe that Virginia Tech and Virginia are tied at the hip in this realignment conversation. So, therefore, Virginia Tech doesn't get mentioned a lot. Well, just yesterday, December 7th, Greg Fugar over on his show, College Football's Pick Around the Corner, is telling us Virginia and Virginia Tech are indeed tied at the hip. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a minute. But first, let's go back to July of this year, July of 2023. There was an article written in Cardinal News, which is a publication that covers the state of Virginia. And it talked about, and I'll leave a link to it in the article or in the description box, by the way, so you can read the whole article for yourself. What I'm going to do is go over a few key quotes that came from Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares, and I hope I pronounced his name right. But the Attorney General for the state of Virginia, Jason Miyares, had some interesting quotes in this article. And then I'm going to kind of go over some other things that he touched on in the article, kind of some highlights. First, when you look at the key quote in this article from Jason Miyares, and here it is, it says, "College football realignment is changing rapidly, and I view my number one role as Attorney General is to protect the interests of the people of Virginia, including protecting the interests of our public universities," end quote. So, as Attorney General of Virginia, he sees it as his job to protect the interests of both public universities and the people of the state. And he thinks college football realignment drastically impacts all of that. Here's another article, or another quote from the article. He says, "College football realignment can have an absolutely seismic impact. It is my fervent hope that Virginia Tech and UVA never make the decision to weaken the other institution," end quote. I'm going to read that again. "College football realignment can have an absolutely seismic impact. It is my fervent hope that Virginia Tech and UVA never make the decision to weaken the other institution." Then he goes on in the article. Again, I'm not going to read the whole article. I'll leave a link so you can read it for yourself. But he goes on to talk about how realignment can impact a student athlete's NIL opportunities. And he talks about how the revenue generated by the athletic departments at these institutions impact not only the student athletes, but all students and even the entire state as a whole. There is an economic impact to this, folks, and we all know that. As fans who attend games, you see all the people that travel into town for games. It helps local businesses, the local, the student athletes that get paid NIL opportunities. It might lessen their opportunities if they are in a conference that makes less revenue or can't keep up with, the richer conferences. So it has a major impact. It can impact the whole university because athletics is the front porch to a university. If a university is good, especially in football, it makes their university more attractive. They get on TV more. People see their brand. People see their institution displayed on television, and it makes them want to go there. It increases enrollment. It's been proven time after time when you have a successful football program or sometimes even a basketball program, it increases enrollment for your university, so it impacts the whole university, the whole campus. And it increases revenue for the university as a whole, which thus increases revenue for the state, right? Because you have more people coming into the state from out of state. So, and here's the last quote that I think is really key from Miyares in this article. And it's this: my only view on conference expansion in my role as Attorney General is to aggressively protect the interests of Virginia Tech and Virginia, no matter what happens. But personally, as a longtime ACC fan, I'd like to see the ACC thrive and not be picked apart. I think the ACC is a great fit for both schools, but if they decide to explore other options, I hope neither makes that decision in a complete vacuum and weakens the other institution. Now, he actually mentions that making a decision in a vacuum. He mentions that a couple times in this article. And anytime somebody says something, especially an attorney who speaks, attorneys don't typically speak without thinking first. They're very thoughtful and intentional with their words. And he makes a point to say he doesn't want them to make a decision in a complete vacuum. He says that at least twice in this article. So I think he wanted to prove a point here. And there had to be a reason that this attorney general wanted to get this in the public eye. He wanted to get this information out there. And there's a reason for that. Now, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, what conversations are taking place, but he wanted this to get out there because he called this reporter, this writer, to make sure he put this in that article. Okay. Now, let's talk about what Greg Fugar had to say on his show. In his live stream last night, December 7th, he said that according to his sources now, and let's go back in time a bit first. Greg Fugar was one of the first people, if not the first person, to tell us that USC and UCLA were going to leave the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. He got ridiculed and criticized for that. He ended up being right. He was on top of the Colorado to the Big 12 situation, along with myself and others. He's been on top of this from the get-go because he has sources that are feeding him information, and these sources are in the know. And he had a source to tell him that UVA and Virginia Tech were tied at the hip in conference realignment going forward, that any conference who takes one school has to take the other school. And it's either both or none. If you want UVA, which apparently the Big Ten and SEC both do because they want to they want to get in the state of Virginia. If you want in the state of Virginia, you got to take both schools, period. If you're not willing to take them both, then don't take either one. Greg was able to confirm this information. And again, if you go watch his show, I'll leave a link to that as well. He'll tell you he got it confirmed by someone connected to the University of Virginia. They confirmed it. Someone at the University of Virginia confirmed that those two schools are tied at the hip, and it's either both or none in conference realignment. Now, I could see a potential scenario, where the SEC and or the Big Ten look at this and go, you know what? We don't really want Virginia Tech. And we don't want Virginia enough to have to take them both. So we'll go get Miami and UNC instead. Or we'll go get Clemson and Florida State instead. Or we'll go get whoever. Name a couple schools. That is possible. This could actually prevent UVA from getting into one of those conferences as well. But the scenario I see as most likely happening is one of those conferences, the power conferences, if they want to get in one of those two power conferences, I think those two conferences would be willing to take both of those schools. The reason I say that is because, as much as this pains me to say as a West Virginia fan who's major rivals with Virginia Tech's still a good brand. Now, they're not as valuable and as popular as they were, back during the Michael Vick days and when Frank Beamer was on the scene, and heck, even 5-6 years ago. It may not be as attractive now as it was a few years ago, but it's still a national brand. And honestly, as a fan of West Virginia and someone who lives an hour from the Blacksburg campus and who is around Virginia Tech fans a lot, if this happens, if Virginia Tech got to go to the SEC or the Big Ten and West Virginia did not, I would be extremely pissed. I would be extremely jealous. Let's not hide it. I don't think there's a school in the Big 12 or the ACC that doesn't want to go to the Big 10 or the SEC. Let's not kid ourselves here. I love the Big 12. I'm loyal to the Big 12. My team's in the Big 12. But who wouldn't want to go to the SEC, folks, or go to the Big 10 where you can make $100 million a year potentially? Who wouldn't want to do that? It'd be crazy not to want to do that, especially for West Virginia, because it would make so much more sense geographically to do that. But back to the topic at hand, Virginia Tech, if Virginia Tech gets ahead of West Virginia and gets in one of those conferences, I will not be happy about it. I would be extremely upset. And another thing that bugs me about this, West Virginia doesn't have another school whose coattails they can ride into one of those conferences. We are the only Power 5 school in the state of West Virginia. So West Virginia doesn't have anybody to help them get into one of those conferences. Unless somebody at that university has some major political clout that I'm not aware of, or somebody like a Joe Manchin can somehow get them in, I'm not sure if they can. I'm not sure if they can. The only logical thing I could think of that West Virginia could do to potentially partner with somebody else is if them and Pitt decided to partner together. Maybe the leadership at Pitt and West Virginia band together and they say, okay, let's go talk to the SEC or the Big Ten, use our rivalry as leverage to try to get into one of those conferences. And even that, folks, I don't think it would do it. I know it's a big rivalry. It's a popular rivalry, but it doesn't hold anywhere near the weight as an Ohio State, Michigan, or Michigan State, or Texas, Oklahoma, or Alabama, Auburn. It's not anywhere near those rivalries as far as from a TV viewer standpoint. There's no major markets. The Pittsburgh market's, 30th in the country, maybe, as far as media size. Now, you would get pretty much that whole market with West Virginia and Pitt, who are only 70 miles apart, and you would get almost the entire state of West Virginia. But neither of those are going to move the needle, I don't think, for TV executives. And when you look at academics, which apparently matters at some of these conferences, Pitt is an AAU university with pretty high academic standards, and West Virginia is a land-grant school with high acceptance rates, lower graduation rates, because their job is to educate as many people from the state of West Virginia as possible. So they don't rank as high academically. They're not AAU. They are an R1 research institution, but they're not AAU. So the Big Ten wouldn't even take West Virginia. I think hell would have to freeze over before West Virginia got into the Big Ten. The SEC would be the only hope there, and I'm not sure the SEC would want to take West Virginia and Pitt together. Now, maybe they would, but I'm not buying it. So at the end of the day, though, West Virginia could potentially get left behind by their cross-state rival, the Virginia Tech Hokies. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Couz's Corner family, what do you think about this situation? If you're a West Virginia fan watching this, would it upset you and make you mad if Virginia Tech got in the SEC and we didn't, or got in the Big Ten and we didn't? I want to hear your thoughts. Also, guys, if you want to support the channel here, there are several ways you can do that. First, you can join the channel, become a VIP member, just like the people scrolling along the bottom of your screen. Travis Anderson, Roy Harrison, Timothy Hetrick Jr., and Heath Stokes and Alice Stokes. Thank you all for being VIP members here at Couz's Corner. If you want to join that club, hit the join button. If there's not a join button on your screen, go to the description box and there's a link to get in and join. Also, guys, if you want to support your favorite college football players, you can do that by buying NIL trading cards from ONITathlete.com. ONIT Athlete offers NIL trading cards. The student athletes get 60% of the profits. Every time you buy a pack of ONIT NIL trading cards, there's a link in my description box. If you use that link, I'll make a small commission from the sale, so you'll be supporting your favorite football players along with hopefully your favorite college football YouTube channel. And you're helping me keep the lights on and helping me to continue producing content for all of you guys out there in Couz's Corner family. Last but not least, please like the video. Give me the thumbs up button. Let me know if you like this content. You can give me the thumbs down button if you think this content is terrible. Please share this with your family and friends. Comment below like I mentioned. And last but not least, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to Couz's Corner yet, what in the world are you waiting for? I cover West Virginia. I cover conference realignment like a madman. I cover Big 12. If all of that or any of that is for you, please hit the button. It might be red. It might be black. It might be white. I don't know what color it is, but please hit it and help support me here on the channel. Help me get my subscription numbers up. With all that being said, guys, I appreciate your support. I appreciate you tuning into this episode. And until the next one, Q Country Roads.